Good afternoon. This is the House of Commons special edition on Vars Day, and I'm your regular host, Joseph Kusi Yancha. I come your way with this episode from the shed, Elim City Sunyane, in the Boahafo region. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Gospel Odame Kentoe and Pastor Benny Odame Kentoe, who are both pastors at the Elim City in Sunyane. Every week we give you a special edition of this program where we profile your favorite or personality so that at least you can learn their life and what they do behind the scenes. Let me say a big thank you to our sponsors and another big thank you to Pastor and the wife for giving us this space. Like we have indicated, this is the House of Commons, a special edition, Vals Day, 14 February 2019. And we are here at the Elim City, the shed. We want to talk to Reverend Pastor Benny Odame Kentoe, who is standing in for the family of the Odame Kentoes. Pastor Benny, you are welcome.
Thank you.
We have heard so much about you, and we are hopeful that today the youth will have the opportunity to also learn about what you're doing with Pastor and then how that can impact on the lives of the others. Viewers, this is Pastor Benny for you, and very soon we'll uncover their life, how they met, and then other things that we could take advantage of. Pastor, tell us, when we say the Odame Kentoes, who are we looking at? Where you're coming from, where Pastor is coming from, the family size, and where you stay as well.
The Odame Kentoes are currently a family of about 6, I should say. Myself, my husband, my 3 kids, and a grandson.
That's fine. But do they stay with you here? Are they here?
No, none of them are here at the moment.
Yes, it's quite preemptive because I have been here a number of times. I hardly see them. But why are they staying away from the family? Is there a special reason?
Yes, because the oldest is married, and then the second one is in uni, and the third one is at boarding school.
Okay, that brings us to a different dimension. The oldest is married, but Pastor actually celebrated his birthday, 50th birthday, not long ago. It's quite amazing. At what age did your daughter marry?
Just right after university, at the age of 22.
That's fine. I want to find out where is Pastor Dr. Gospel Odame Kentoe coming from, and then where are you coming from yourself? If you could give us some family.
When you say coming from, as it as to his
It's
tribe or his...
hometown and stuff.
Okay. He actually was born in Koforidia and grew up in Koforidia, but the parents are actually from Akwem and Jakiti, all in the eastern region.
How about you, Pastor?
I'm an Ashanti in terms of my mother's side, and my dad is also from Bono.
Your dad is from Bon. Yes, at least as for the Bon background, I am a little bit privy to that. So how did you meet from Ashanti Bon and then one from Jakiti? How did you meet Pastor?
I was a young student having finished my tertiary education in UK. But my parents were then living in Sunyani here, working as civil servants. So I had to come down. And on coming down on a Sunday, I went to church because I was directed by my former pastor to go there because a new church had begun. And I went in, and that was when we met.
It's fantastic. So people meet on different grounds, and they started off. And that is why today's edition is a special one. On Vals Day, Pastor met Pastor at a special event, which was a church service. But we'll unravel more mystery, and very soon you get to know how you can also put that side by side. Pastor, I want to go back into your family a bit for now, then later we'll get into Dr. Gospel. You said you had returned from uni. We want to know your educational background. How did you get to uni? Where did you school? I mean, are you part of the alliances that we know of? I want to know about your education.
I grew up in Bolgatanga, and I did my primary education there, but then I went to St. Monica's, Ashanti Moko, and did my secondary there. Then after leaving there, I went to the UK to study banking and finance. and I did that with University of Leicester and came back here. Then I worked with the Inland Revenue, now GRE, for about, I did my service there because I had to do a service in order to work. Then after that, I worked there for about 2 years and left again to the UK.
That's a fantastic one. Pastor schooled Monica's one of the best schools, and fortunately for her, she didn't school for the tertiary level in Ghana. She went to the UK. A lot of people want to start their profession right away, especially those that want to be pastors. How did your own happen? After uni in UK, Leicester University, which of course is one of the most prestigious, you come back down to Ghana, and then you find yourself to be a pastor. Can you tell us what happened between the two?
Believe it or not, I didn't become a pastor straight away. Because one thing I was certain of was I wasn't going to be a pastor, and neither was I going to marry a pastor. And especially a charismatic or Pentecostal pastor, to be precise. I came here to do my service, and the idea was to finish and go back and top it up with my master's. But then, when I came, things changed. I became more involved in church. I've always been a church girl anyway. But then, the need for me to be here because it was a church that was starting, and I thought I needed to help out. And that is how it all started. So I decided to stay on a couple of years just to help out as well, and also be with my parents.
Okay, so viewers, we're talking to Pastor Benny Odame Kentoe, and we've got to know that she schooled in the UK, Leicester University, and beyond that, she didn't just become a pastor, she had to do other stuff, even went to the point of serving in the house of God, and then later she turned out as a pastor. We'll come back shortly to know how school life was, the experiences that she gathered in the UK, and then how that translated into marriage. Okay, so viewers, we've been talking to Pastor Benny Odame Kentoe, who happens to be a pastor at the LMCT, the Shed, and also the wife to Pastor Dr. Odame Kentoe, Gospel. We have got to almost the details of the discussion, where our interest is. We have mentioned that we want to speak to Pastor on Vars Day. Of course, I have a personal experience with her in about 3 years ago, where she pastored us, taught us a lot on relationships, and that is the more reason we're talking to her today. Now, we want Pastor to tell us the experiences she gathered, especially in respect of relationships, and how she was able to connect that so that she zeroes into how she met Pastor Gospel, and then we can take it from there. So Pastor, tell us some of the experiences that you gathered when you were in the UK.
I think for me, my experiences back in UK were all based on my foundation back in Ghana, because I was very much a typical SU girl. So I was very much into the Bible, studying of the Bible, keeping myself pure. And in going to UK, it was the same thing. As much as I was without my parents, I think I had made a covenant with God in that area of making sure that I focused on God. And I was then worshiping with Action Chapel in London. And we had quite a lot of youth. We worked together, but I was just not interested in relationships as of that time. So I wasn't so much in going into relationships. I think my focus there was my education, coming back, getting a good job, because my father had actually pumped that into my head, that I could become anything that I wanted to be if I set my mind on it. And as at that time, for me, relationship was no-go zone. And that is how I kept going.
That is fantastic. Pastor, you have brought in something I would want to go back to. You said your father had taught you that anything that you set your eyes on. I want you to tell us more about that. You know, the youth of today, what we think is that we are more enlightened, more than the older people, the older generation. Personally, I have thought that any lady that I meet and I want to marry and my mother says no, I'm also going to say no, because I feel my parents would never object to any lady except when they see something beyond what I could not see because of love. Tell us, the specific roles beyond what you have told us that parents play, like as it were your father played and your mother played in your relationship, and then how you got married?
I think I'm very fortunate. I come from a home where it's not a typical, let me say, Ghanaian home where father says you do. We were brought up, all four girls, to be able to challenge and talk. So when something wasn't right, we were able to do that. And I think that my father built that confidence in us. So there was that culture of free talk. And I had that agreement with him that if I enter into a relationship, that very day, he had to know. If I agreed to go out, even on a date with someone, he had to be aware of. And that was that confidence that we had. So it was such a good rapport that if I was to do anything, I go to him and I consult. And he also would give his advice, as much as my mom had her input as well. But then I always made the final decision. But they always made me know the consequences. And I think for me, it went a long way to help me. Because when they brought in the advice, it wasn't like they were stopping me. But it gave me the chance to analyze things and then make decisions. And most often, by going by their decisions, it worked. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Okay. So, obviously, parents had a good role to play. I would want to digress from the parents a little bit. Now, I have listened to Pastor, I've listened to yourself, and quite a few times I have got to pick up some facts. I wouldn't want to mention it myself. I want to pick it up from you so that viewers can also attest to. When you met Pastor, a UK blogger from Leicester University, who was Pastor at the time? Was he also from UK and a Leicester person, or he was a different person? Can you tell us more?
No, he wasn't. He had actually finished D-Hauz and had just pastored for, I think he was in his second year of pastoring the church that we met. So he was a young pastor, but before going to D-Hauz to do his Bible study, his highest education as at that time was, I think, a diploma at Accra Poly. So that was the difference.
That's fine. I leave it to the viewers to judge. Pastor was from UK with a degree and working somewhere, now we call GRA, right? Now, she decided to settle with somebody who was holding a diploma. And now one is a doctor, one doesn't have a doctor. I leave it to you, viewers, to make the judgment yourself. Vows Day, there are so much you can learn, but it's important also that as much as the day goes by, you're able to pick some few stuff from. If you have the opportunity to meet Pastor, maybe on our platform, we'll put Pastor's picture there, or put Pastor Benny's picture there. You look at them and you see there is no striking difference. They are almost like twins. That is how God works, and we are happy and delighted. So, Pastor, you did what no one would want to do, and God has blessed it and it has been so awful. Tell us the experiences over the years, from the time that you met Pastor until you also became a pastor. We want to get to know about that.
What I would say to especially the ladies that are listening to me, most often it's like we want a full package when it comes to relationships. We don't look at character, we look at what the person has acquired. And the issue I have with that is you don't know how the person even acquired that. Whether it was inheritance, whether it was from dubious means. I would rather have someone with character and hard working over materialistic things. And I think that is what I chose. And even with that, my parents were thinking, Abna, what do you think you're doing? You've come this far, why are you going to marry a pastor that will look after you with offering? And they used to call it collection. And how can collection look after you after all the money they put into me? But now, as you rightly said, he is more educated than I am. My highest is a master's, but he has a doctorate, and he's also doing a second one as well. And I'm not thinking of doing that. But it's because I saw in him godly character, where he fears God and he is hardworking. And when you have a man that fears God and at the same time is hardworking, then you know that together you can agree and do so much on earth. And now I look back and I don't have any regrets. And also for the men, I think that you also have to have the confidence. I always say that you would meet a woman that will have all the package, and you think that because of that, I'm not going in for that person. But what the Bible says is that we women are what? A helpmate. So you guys were just formed. I always say that, but women were made. That's what the Bible says. God made us, and in making us, our package is complete. In forming you, you are developing. So when you see us and we have the full package, that is God, an answered prayer that God has given you. But I don't know why, especially African men, you feel so intimidated, whilst your answer is right in front of you. And I believe that when Pastor Gospel came forward and he proposed to me, it wasn't straightforward, because it's not because of who he was or where he was coming from. It's just that as at that time, I wasn't ready for marriage. But the more I observed him and realized that he was godly, he feared God, and he was hardworking, I gave in. Because when he first met me, he didn't go about saying, I have seen this, God has said that. He just came straight and he said, I don't have money, but I am determined, I love you, and if you would love me back, we'll work together and we'll make it. And thank God.
Viewers, like I mentioned, pastors go about, especially when they are young or they know God, that God has revealed to me, God said this, God said that. And empirically, what they're saying is that marry me. But the big people tell us, go like Pastor Dr. Gospel went. He said that I don't have money, I have nothing, I have God, I want to marry you. And if God has really said it, you will see the fruit. Pastor, there is a proverb in Akan which says that to wait. If you don't really, if you don't know what you are about, you don't know what you're talking about, then you want to give excuse as though the person to come and endorse what you said is travel. Now you have told us that yes, you have never regretted. We would want to see facts and evidences, but we want to just go on a quick break. When we come back, you tell us about very factual things about your kids, about your family, about the things that you have achieved, for which reason we can all be proud and say that Pastor didn't take the wrong decision. Watch out, viewers. Pastor, we are back to the show. Viewers, this is the House of Commons special edition on Thursday, 2019, February 14. We are at the LMCT, the shed, and we're talking to Pastor Benny, who is a pastor here, and also the wife of Pastor Dr. Gospel Odame Kentoe. Before we went, we were talking about her going to UK and still deciding to marry Pastor Gospel, who at the time was holding diploma. Now we want to find out. She has said that, of course, she's never regretted. We want her to tell us about her family, the life that they have lived, the kind of successes. I wouldn't be preemptive enough to tell you that they have both lectured in the UK. I will not talk about that. Maybe they will give us more insight. So that she tells us some of the things that have happened in their family. And of course, we can use that and make the judgment whether she took the decision rightly or not. Pastor, so tell us some of the things that have happened, for which reason you think that God has been so good to you.
Where do I begin? I think God has been more than good. He's been very gracious to us. We both are hard workers, but one thing I'm very grateful to God for my husband is, for me, once getting married, I would have settled. But there was one thing my dad told him, or asked him, because my dad wanted me to further my education. And the idea was to get married first, and he wasn't happy. So it was part of the package that once I get married, I go back to school and complete and do my master's. For my dad, I think he thought that was my security, so that if anything happens, at least I had some kind of a good education. But not only did he do that, because he pushed me into doing other professional courses, worked in other various areas, and as you rightly said, my last kind of job was actually into lecturing, and I lectured for almost from 2014 or 2004 till we came back in 2016 when I resigned from my post. For him, he actually did not lecture as in university or college, but he did quite a lot of seminars and other things with other schools in terms of Bible related. But with him, he became actually a magistrate in the United Kingdom, for which he still is, but not playing an active role. And that is how God can work. For my kids, the oldest is actually in his final year in medicine, because he did a first degree, got married, and went back to uni, and now she's doing her final in medicine. The second one is also in university, and he's actually attached to the ITV, and he is also into media. And the last one is also much younger, but also in secondary school.
US, that's beautiful. Pastor, it's interesting. I know very well that neither you or Pastor, it's one family that would want to push their daughter, especially the firstborn, into marriage at an age that is seemingly too young. There should be a secret, and we want to unravel that secret. What was the motivation? Is it perhaps because of the UK lifestyle, and then at a point everything was there, money, all the necessary things were there, and you decided that, okay, daughter, marry, or it is just out of good reasons? Could you enlighten us more?
I think when she was in her final year, she came home all excited about having met someone and all that. But I thought, okay, fine. It's the normal thing for girls at her age to feel all excited and all that. But when she started talking to the dad, I realized that it was more of a serious thing. Then she was like, I want to get married. But she went actually on missions, because we're then starting a new work at Serbia. And she went there, did it, and we thought, okay, while she's away, she'll forget about all this and come back. And she came back and she was more even determined. And she wanted to go and settle in Serbia and work. So upon talking with the guy and interacting with the other side of the family, I think the boy's family was also so much interested. And we realized that it was meant to be. And I think it's not so much just of age, but some people can be 30 and not matured and psychologically not prepared. And I think having come from a family where he realized how we put so much into marriage, she had already been prepared for that.
Okay, Pastor, you've mentioned family again. We know your family. Personally, I know your family so much. As far as what you tell the church is concerned and what we see outside. So we know that your family would be so much interested in your children's welfare and all that. But here is a case you tell us about your daughter entering marriage, and that family is also interested. So we want you to tell us what should be the rules that family should play. There are a number of times that people break up and all that, and most of it's because there was nobody to strongly hold on to advise them. What do you tell us? What should be the rules that families should play?
I would say that in bringing up your children, you should have the faith that you've invested so much in them, and when they are ready to marry, you should believe that they are ready. And also, even when they are ready, as parents, you still have to coach them, encourage them. You let them know what can go right, what can go wrong, but be ready to be there for them.
Be ready to be there for them. Very soon we'll be bringing the whole episode to a close. But Pastor, I want to find out, you are a pastor and you are married to a pastor. Both pastors pastoring one church, and we know the amazing things that happen in the Elim City in Sunyani. The bigger pastors, as it were, that we hear of their stories, either they have divorced the wife or the other. We want to find out what has been the secret. What is holding you and Pastor together till now?
I would say that first of all is our individual relationship with God, because that gives you the strength in order to love the other. And the second is the idea of, I always tell my husband that I am not obliged to love him as a wife, but he is. My role is to submit and respect. And I believe the basics of it is two things: walking in faith with God and in humility with one another.
working in faith with God and in humility with one another. Thank you very much, Pastor Benny, for coming on the show. And we hope that next time we'll be able to come and take more of that so that viewers would enjoy. We know that everybody will be impacted. Viewers, this is the House of Commons and the first edition, which is a special edition for that matter, on Thursday, February 14th, 2019. Thanks to Pastor Dr. Odame Kentoe and the wife and the Elim City management in general for granting us this space to hold our program